I have just had my 17th trip to the operating theatre, and most of those surgeries have been very difficult. I do have further surgery to have.
Trish Snyder has endured years of pain and surgery after severe complications from a pelvic mesh implant. Living in the northern New South Wales town of Casuarina, she's just over an hour's drive from her team of specialists across the border in Brisbane.
I did have my last consultation with my specialist on Zoom, and neither of us were particularly satisfied with that.
Trisha's home is within the so-called border bubble, so she can actually enter the Sunshine State, but only as far as the Gold Coast and not to Brisbane.
I have in the past several times needed life-saving treatment by this team in Brisbane.
Trish says after a series of phone calls and online applications, her understanding is she can only see her doctors if she quarantines in a Brisbane hotel for 2 weeks. But she says that raises its own risks.
If I was in a hotel in Brisbane by myself, I'm not sure I could manage that.
Good morning.
The Queensland Government insists someone in Trisha's position is eligible to travel for a day trip without quarantining. But for those actually navigating the system, things aren't so clear.
When you apply for a border pass every week, you give them the same information and you get a very different answer each time. It becomes a little overwhelming and frustrating.
We have a dedicated team of clinicians who are available to people in other states who need to get healthcare here. We treat nearly 1,000 people from New South Wales in our health facilities each and every day, and I would urge you to provide the details of that hotline to your contact, and we can facilitate her seeing her doctor.
The last information a couple of days ago was that my mother probably would last only 1 or 2 weeks.
Greg Newland lives in the ACT. He's been told his 93-year-old mother, who lives in a Queensland aged care facility, has only a short time to live.
So I think she's just hanging in there waiting for us to come.
Greg and his wife Gloria can only enter Queensland if they undergo 2 weeks in quarantine, even though the ACT hasn't had an active case of COVID in months. They fear they're more likely to catch the virus in a Queensland hotel, a risk they're not willing to take.
I'd probably die. I have a lung condition.
Queensland's border rules treat Canberra as a hotspot due to its open border with New South Wales.
I feel very sorry for everybody in Canberra who was in a similar position, really. I think it's just bloody-mindedness by the Queensland Premier.
How sustainable is it to keep banning people from the ACT where there hasn't been any COVID detected at all in 2 months, even on compassionate grounds?
Look, all of those factors are taken into account. We've said that at the end of each month we'll review cases in other states and therefore review our border rules.
The Australian Medical Association says Queensland doctors back the government's stance.
They are all supportive of our current position on the border restrictions because they understand the importance of this in managing the pandemic.
See this here?
Greg and Gloria closely followed the case of another Canberra resident whose plea to attend her father's funeral in Queensland became a flashpoint in the national debate over state borders.
I've got no words. It still doesn't feel real, really, because I haven't said goodbye to him. I haven't seen him.
26-year-old Sarah Kasich was denied permission to attend her father, Brendan Prendergast's funeral.
I country is divided like never before.
Refused to release a young woman from hotel quarantine.
Surely just this once, this can be done.
But after her public outcry and the Prime Minister Scott Morrison's intervention, she was granted permission to privately view his body. Bernard Prendergast's other daughter, Alex, has now spoken out, claiming her family's tragedy has been exploited for political purposes.
It's quite clear that this was orchestrated in order to maximise media coverage and I guess provide Scott Morrison with a campaign against the Queensland Premier.
Alex suffered 2 losses in the same week, her grandmother and her father. She says in her grandmother's case, without the national spotlight, relatives missed out on passes to cross the borders.
So I've seen, I guess, both sides, government assistance and no government assistance or intervention. And it's been really difficult to see the contrast between the two circumstances.
The Prime Minister's office told 7:30 the PM only raised the matter on live radio after Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk discussed it in Parliament. After their son Damien suffered a stroke, John and Suzanne Morris applied to travel from Sydney to Queensland to visit him.
We were told that we would have an answer within 48 hours, and by then it was too late. Our son had passed away. Perhaps it may have been different had we able to get an answer earlier than we did.
The PM and the Premiers will sit down at a National Cabinet meeting this Friday, where a new system to more precisely define COVID hotspots will be on the agenda.
I would like to see that whole application process streamlined in some way, but more importantly, just for the process and those evaluating the applications to show some empathy and some compassion, because there was none of that.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.